What should you never, and I mean never, do on a Disney World vacation? We're going to find out here on DFV Guide. Hey everybody, it's AJ for Disney Food Blog. Now, we've talked about the things you should always do in Disney World, so it only seems fair that we talk about the things you'd be better off never, ever, ever doing while trying to pull off the best vacation possible in Disney World. So let's start out on a more uplifting note, right? Okay. You should never give up when you see your boarding group window expire. Okay, congratulations, you've successfully snagged a boarding group for Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind over in Epcot. Now, you'll get to hang out in that virtual queue until your boarding group is called, but what happens if your boarding group number comes up and you're nowhere near Cosmic Rewind? Like maybe you're not even inside Epcot yet. According to Disney, you have a 1-hour window from the time your boarding group number is called to get over to the ride and check in. But even if you miss your hour window because you're eating at one of the restaurants or maybe you're still back in your hotel room getting ready for the day, do not shrug and say, oh well, I guess that's that. Though it is up to the discretion of the cast member, there are times that the cast members at the front of the attraction will go ahead and let you onto the ride, even if your window has expired. One time we had a dining reservation at the exact time our boarding group was called, but we definitely didn't want to ditch it because it took us a lot of effort to get that dining reservation. So we went ahead to the dining reservation, hoping that maybe we'd be able to get on the ride nonetheless. And when we were done, we headed over to the ride and explained the situation to the cast member out front. They were very understanding and they scanned us in. But that doesn't mean there won't be times when it is a problem. And when Tron Light Cycle Run opens up in Magic Kingdom, which we're highly anticipating will open with a virtual queue system, they might be less lenient about that hour window. So it's always best to aim to make it to the ride during your boarding group window, but if you can't, don't give up before at least trying to see if you can get on after your pass has expired. You might just luck out. Since we're already in virtual queue territory, I feel like I also need to tell you about this next virtual queue point before it's too late. Getting a virtual queue or even a Lightning Lane reservation if you decide to go the Genie Plus route and bypass the main queues of rides isn't an every man for himself concept. Your group's going to have to be a team if you want to make sure you're all able to ride together. And that's why you're going to need to make sure your family is all connected to one person's My Disney Experience account ahead of time. Don't leave your family behind. If all the accounts of your group aren't connected, then everyone's going to have to try to get virtual queue reservations on their own, and that risks somebody either getting a completely different time slot than everyone else or missing out on a ride reservation altogether. So let's say you have an account on the My Disney Experience app and your sibling has one too. To connect their account to yours, they'll need to find the linking code underneath the My Profile tab. Once they find that, they should be able to pull up a QR code for you to scan. On your end, you'll need to locate the Add a Guest section on your My Disney Experience app. You'll be able to find this under the My Profile tab as well. Then you'll select the Friends and Family list and scroll down till you find a section that says Add a Guest. If your sibling is nearby, you can just scan their QR code and you'll now be connected under one account. But if your sibling isn't nearby when you're trying to get all this set up, you can always use a default manual code to type in that the app can provide instead. Once everyone's all together on a single account, you'll be able to select everyone in your group when you make reservation plans. But always double check to make sure everyone's selected when you do make these reservations. You don't accidentally want to leave one person unchecked, which can happen from time to time. Now, many of us have had to learn this next lesson the hard way, myself included. You never want to opt out of a stroller when your kid may still need one. So even if your kid tends to hold your hand and walk alongside you at the park back home, don't ditch the idea of bringing a stroller on your Disney World trip just yet. Disney World is a lot of walking. Like at the end of a full park day, even I feel like I need a stroller. Your feet hurt, you're sweaty, you're cranky, and if you're feeling that way, imagine how your kid is feeling. If you don't bring a stroller, your kid could very well ask to be held the rest of the night just to get off their poor little legs. And trust me, even if you're used to having your child attached to your hip back home, they feel 3 times heavier when you're trying to carry them in ride lines, gift shops, and in each land of the park. Not to mention, a stroller is still a good way to not only carry a conked out little one, but all your different souvenirs that you collect throughout the day too. If you decide not to bring along a stroller because it's a nuisance to get onto your plane or you need the extra room in the back of your trunk for all your other luggage, you can always rent one in the parks if you need to. Stroller rental stations are at the front of each park and at the Sundries building next to Wolfgang Puck in Disney Springs. You can rent them out for a single day or for the length of your visit, but keep in mind that Disney strollers can't be transferred from one park to the next. So if you plan on park hopping, you'll have to show your receipt of purchase to the second stroller rental location of the day so they can hook you up with a new one. But we've definitely seen 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds, sometimes even 6-year-olds still need a stroller at Disney World because there's just so much walking. All right, ready to learn how to avoid the worst part of a Disney World park day? Then it's time to listen up. Never leave the park when everyone else does. Yep, when the fireworks end and the day is done, you may at first feel like you've accomplished quite a feat. A full day in the park and you survived. Now that's something that needs to be put on a t-shirt. But don't pull out the cricket just yet. You're about to face your toughest challenge of the day, surviving the end of the night crowds. If you decide to leave as soon as the parks close, you transform from being a park guest to being part of a herd. You'll be smushed up side by side with hundreds of other people desperately trying to make their way back to the buses, meaning those bus lines are going to be long. And if you're leaving Magic Kingdom at the end of the night, you may also have to take multiple modes of transportation to get out of the park. If you drove, you'll have to take either a monorail or ferry to get over to the transportation and ticket center. And by the way, those lines are no laughing matter either. Then you'll have to either take the tram or walk to where you parked your car. The whole venture could wind up being well over 45 minutes or an hour when all is said and done if you have to wait for multiple monorails. And that feels like forever when you're exhausted and just want to get back to the comfort of your nice, cool hotel sheets. Want to for sure avoid these crowds? You've got two options. You can A, leave early, or B, leave late. I know, good options, right? But if you leave just as soon as the parks close, you're not going to be able to avoid the masses that'll be exiting the parks with you. If you leave a little bit early, you should have a pretty easy time getting on Disney transportation without waiting for a whole town's worth of people to get on before you. And I'm not talking about hours early. Even if you leave right before the fireworks, you should be able to have a full day and still get on a bus without a 45-minute wait to worry about. But if you don't want to skip out on the nighttime spectacular, then plan to hang out for a bit after it ends. Main gift shops will stay open an hour after the parks close, so even if you can't get on any more rides, you can still do a bit of shopping, or you can sit your merry little self down on a bench somewhere and watch the chaos until things settle down. Don't forget my special tip that you can actually mobile order something to be ready after the fireworks, so you can go pick up your mobile order and sit on a bench and just people watch and have your little snack. And if you're not big on the fireworks shows, but you still don't want to leave the parks early, you can also get in line for a popular ride a few minutes before the park officially closes. I've used this strategy to get on Seven Dwarfs Mine Train at Magic Kingdom and Frozen Ever After at Epcot, and even Rise of the Resistance at Disney's Hollywood Studios. This way you can pass the time by waiting for one last ride instead of passing the time like, I don't know, an animal getting led to the barn for the night. Now this next point is no laughing matter, but you're allowed to giggle if you want. I will not judge. Please do not ever get in a long ride line before you use the bathroom. All right. If you're about to get in line for a ride that's pushing a 60+ minute wait, then do everyone in your group a favor and everyone go to the bathroom. I'm not just talking about the kids who claim they don't need to go. I'm talking everybody. Everybody has to try, teens and adults included. Because if the urge strikes while you're in line, then you'll have to do a whole lot of backtracking to get to the bathroom, and then you'll have to squeeze past people to get back in line, and that'll earn you a whole lot of dirty looks. There's also the possibility that you'll get out of line to relieve yourself and your group will finally reach the front of the line, meaning they might have to ride without you. And if you decide to hold it in during the ride, that means you waited all this time for a ride that you're not going to be able to fully enjoy since you'll be focused on your bladder the whole time, and that's miserable. So yeah, please take a potty break before you get in line for a ride. And if you still have to go while you're waiting, try to find a cast member to help you find a way in and out of the line a little more smoothly. By the way, if you're in line for Flight of Passage or Rise of the Resistance, then you're pretty golden since there's a bathroom midway through both of those queues. At Flight of Passage, you'll see it, it's right there on the wall. At Rise of the Resistance, you can ask in the Stormtrooper room if a cast member could take you to the restroom. Okay, time to address a more serious issue now. Please don't ever forget that Disney World is still part of the real world. I know we all like to think of Disney World as this magical place where your biggest problems boil down to what time you're going to get in line to meet Mickey Mouse, but let's take off those rose-colored glasses for a second. Bad things, unfortunately, do still happen in Disney World. Just because you're in the Disney bubble doesn't mean you're in a safety bubble. Now, Disney does its best to keep things safe. You've got teams of security that do a great job making sure guests don't have to stress over mean people doing mean things. But please be careful when you're out late, walking around pathways to and from the parks and hotels. it's best to stay with the group or at least have a buddy with you so you're not out and walking around this expansive place by yourself. And be vigilant about your valuables too. Don't leave your purse or park bags in your stroller when you go on rides or into show buildings. If you don't want to continuously worry about taking off your bag before a ride and remembering to collect it later, you can always opt for a fanny pack that you can keep buckled around your waist all the time. This is also why magic bands can be nifty. Instead of worrying about carrying your key card and credit card all day long, you can have your cards loaded into your magic band strapped safely around your wrist. You may also want to think about renting a locker. Park lockers are sold on a first-come, first-served basis with sizes like small, large, and jumbo, but jumbo's only offered at Magic Kingdom and Epcot. The only downside for the lockers is that they're non-transferable between parks, so if you want to get your money's worth out of your rental, make sure you're not planning on park hopping or leaving early that day. Now, some things in Disney World you never want to do because it'll trip up your plans for the rest of the day. Other things you'll never want to do because you could get banned from the park, which seems significantly worse to me. So one of those things that'll for sure get you in a whole lot of trouble is smoking while you're inside the parks. You don't want to smoke while you're in the Disney parks. I'm not talking just cigarette smoke here either. I'm talking about any kind of smoking, and that includes vaping too. Before 2019, there were actually designated smoking sections inside the Disney parks for people to take a quick smoke break. But once May 1st rolled around, Disney banned smoking in their parks entirely. So if you're caught smoking, you could be facing some mighty repercussions. If you do need a smoke break during your visit, there are a few designated smoking areas outside the parks that you can find on the Disney World website before you visit. Like outside the Magic Kingdom, close to the bus stops, and to the far right of the Disney's Hollywood Studios entrance. But whatever you do, don't smoke inside the parks. Don't even try to sneak a cigarette because Disney won't be lenient when it comes to those rules. Okay, time to save some money next. We like doing that, right? Saving money. You never want to pay more than you have to for anything in Disney World, but we've already talked to you a lot about hotels and food. Today we're going to talk about magic bands. You don't want to pay more than you have to for magic bands. Want to save money on your magic band? Then don't just wait to pay for it once you're on Disney World property. Not too long ago, Disney World used to give free basic magic bands to guests who were staying at their hotels. And although that's no longer the case, Disney still gives their resort guests a special pre-arrival magic band price if they decide to order certain styles online before their trip. Now don't forget, if you want to see these discounted magic band prices, you're going to need to be logged into your My Disney Experience account on the Disney World website to get the full spread of options available to you. These magic band discounts may also be available for annual pass holders who are looking to renew their season passes in the near future. Now you know the phrase, you get what you get and you don't throw a fit. Let's modify that a little bit. How about you get what you asked for and everyone's happy? Yeah, I like that a whole lot better. So let's learn how to do that next. Please don't ever forget to ask about food modifications or food changes when you're in Disney World. Simply put, if you pay for Disney World food, you want to enjoy it. Okay, honestly, if you pay for food anywhere, you want to enjoy it. But everything costs more in Disney World, so there's even more at stake, right? So if there's a certain item on a Disney menu that you want to try, but you're not vibing with one or two of the ingredients listed, don't just buy it and hope for the best. Ask for the modifications. If you're ordering through the My Disney Experience app for your quick service meal, there's even a spot for you to make notes while mobile ordering, just in case you have any special requests. Some modifications, however, are much easier than others. For example, if you don't want the cheese on your burger, or you don't want onion crunchies on your mac and cheese at Flame Tree Barbecue in Animal Kingdom, then that's going to be a whole lot easier to modify than, say, the little carrot pieces in the chicken stir fry at Yak and Yeti Local Foods Cafe, which they're not going to be able to remove for you. Toppings are easy to change, but pre-mixed ingredients, not so much. You may need to ask a cast member about modifications if you have any specific questions. And you can end up paying less for your quick service meal if you take things off your entree. This happens every now and then, not often, but mainly when you're asking for certain meat-based items to be removed from your plate. Just consider it a happy little money-saving accident when it does happen. Okay, brace yourself for this next point because the truth does hurt. Don't always trust Disney. All right, this sounds pretty harsh. As magical and fun-loving as Disney is, Disney will always be looking out for Disney, meaning some of Disney's suggestions may be more beneficial to them and less beneficial to you. So let's look at Disney Genie, for example. The free version of Disney Genie is a planning tool that can help you create a park day itinerary that's supposed to maximize your time. One of the perks about using Genie's customized itineraries is that it can update your plans in real time. But that can actually be part of Disney's tricky tactic that'll lead you to another section of their park and away from one of their more popular areas to help disperse the crowds better. In the past, I've gotten some awfully weird suggestions that I might not have known were strange if it'd been my first visit. The last time I tried using Disney Genie itinerary service in Epcot, it recommended that I head over to the Seas with Nemo and Friends as my first ride of the day, telling me that the wait was extremely low that morning. Gee, thanks, Genie, but I know that this Nemo Dark Ride has a low wait all day long and is something I can jump in line for at any time, so it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to get in line for it at the start of my day when I could get in line for other rides that'll get much busier later on, like Remy's Ratatouille Adventure or Test Track. It's okay to use Disney Genie's itineraries to help give you a suggestion here and there, because sometimes it really can give you some good advice. But make sure you're not wholly dependent on this service because it doesn't really have your best interest in mind. Unlike us, we care a lot, which is why we post tips and tricks on the daily and have that DFB newsletter you can get for free to get those tips and tricks sent to your email. In the end, just know what your must-do experiences are and make sure you have a good idea about how to maximize your park day with those in mind. And if your gut is telling you that the Disney Genie suggestion sounds awfully weird, then listen to your gut. Now, think you know every aspect of your Disney World vacation? You might not be thinking about these next points, but you should. Don't go to Disney World without really knowing and understanding your hotel. So every Disney World hotel is different, and I'm not just talking about theming. I'm talking layout, offerings, amenities, construction projects, pool opening times, elevators, etc. So before you book a Disney World hotel room based solely off of how pretty it looks or how much it costs, be sure to ask the following questions. First, how accessible will this resort be for me and what I need? In most cases, Disney World hotels will have elevators that'll get you from floor to floor without you worrying about having to take the stairs each time. But note that I said in most cases, because with Disney's Caribbean Beach Resort, you've got stairs, stairs, and more stairs without an elevator in sight. If you have someone in your party with mobility issues and you plan on staying at Caribbean Beach, you'll have to make sure you request a room on the bottom floor. You may also want to put in that ground floor request if you know that getting all your luggage up and down multiple flights of stairs will be a pain, or if you don't want to think about walking up to your room after walking around the parks all day long. There are some buildings at Caribbean Beach that have 3 floors, and you got to walk up all those floors every single time. And with your stroller, and with your luggage, and everything else. Now, next question, will the pool be open during my visit? So resort pools aren't open 24/7, 365. Pools have to close every now and then for extended routine maintenance. Currently, the Congress Park Pool and the Treehouse Villa pools over at Disney Saratoga Springs are closed and will remain closed until mid-December 2022. And in 2023, the Feature Pool and Whirlpool Spa will be closed for a few months at Disney's Contemporary Resort beginning January 9th. Some of the pools over at Disney's Fort Wilderness Resort are also set to close in early 2023. And there could be more announced later on that you need to keep tabs on too. Disney will let you know about pool closures on each Disney resort page. And granted, each hotel does have multiple pools, so you're more than likely going to have at least 1 or 2 that remain open during your stay, meaning you don't have to worry about being pool-less. But if one of the main super duper themed pools that you wanted to experience and is the reason you're staying at that hotel is going to be receiving some TLC around the time of your visit, you'll want to know about those closures before you get there to avoid being sorely disappointed. And along with extended closures, it's also good to know about the hours for the resort's feature pools too. Stormalong Bay over at Yacht and Beach Club, for instance, it's normally open from 10 to 10, but these hours are subject to change. If you're wanting to take a swim before or after Stormalong Bay's hours, you can always take a peaceful swim in one of the resort's quiet pools, which are technically open 24 hours a day. Another question to ask at your hotel, is there construction currently going on that'll disrupt my stay? If a Disney World hotel has any type of construction happening, like Disney's Boardwalk Inn will be experiencing over the course of 2023 with that hotel room and lobby renovation and a restaurant addition, as well as Disney's Polynesian Village Resort with its DVC expansion that's going to open in late 2024, then you could experience a few hiccups during your stay. Construction isn't necessarily going to keep you up at night, but it could close off select resort offerings or cause commotion during the day if you have a napper with you. And of course, what unique perks will this hotel provide? Once again, each hotel is more than its theming. Some have more convenient transportation methods, like resorts along the Skyliner route or monorail loop. Some have more exclusive perks, like the extended evening hours for deluxe resort guests only. Some have a better arrangement of restaurant offerings. The list goes on. Not all hotels are created equal in Disney World, so take the time to consider what's most important to you when it comes to a Disney hotel stay. You can learn even more about each hotel at Disney World from our YouTube video where we rank every single one, so you may want to check that out next. Now, don't forget about these next things, otherwise you might wind up real sad to have missed out on these. Next on our list, don't forget about returning and new experiences. Exciting things are happening around the parks lately that you're not going to want to miss out on. We've seen several character dining experiences return to their former glory in the past month or so, like Pooh and the 100 Acre Wood Company returning to Crystal Palace and Magic Kingdom. Lilo and Stitch are back for breakfast at Ohana and Disney's Polynesian Village Resort, along with Mickey and Pluto, of course. And Minnie and her beach-loving buddies are swinging by for breakfast at Cape May Cafe and Disney's Beach Club Resort. And that's only the start of all the different character dining offerings you can experience around Disney World, which are all changing pretty drastically. Something that you booked when it was a family-style meal is now maybe a buffet. And prices are going up as well. So if there's a particular meet and greet dining opportunity you want to add to your itinerary, plan to make reservations 60 days before your trip and make sure you kind of double and triple check. How much does it cost now? What's the dining setup? Is it a buffet? Is it a family style? Are the characters there or not? Because that all could have changed since you made your booking. Now you know what else is returning? After hours events. Currently, you can book your tickets for an after hours event at one of the Disney World parks, which will allow you to experience the park for up to 3 hours after it closes for everyone else, giving you a chance to get on the rides with much fewer crowds and get complimentary snacks while you're at it. After Hours will be returning to Magic Kingdom on certain nights starting January 9th, 2023, with prices ranging from $129 to $159 per person. At Hollywood Studios, After Hours will return on certain nights starting January 4th, 2023, and the prices similarly range from $129 to $159 per person. Yeah, not too different from a full day park ticket, so you're definitely paying for convenience here. Tickets are on sale now, but they book up fast, so if you want to jump on those, make sure you do so ASAP. And here's a new experience that took us off guard that should be gracing the Epcot scene later on this year. Disney's DuckTales World Showcase Adventure is coming to the pavilions soon. If you ever had the chance to experience the old Kim Possible World Showcase Adventure or the Agent P World Showcase Adventure, this interactive scavenger hunt with Huey, Dewey, Louie, and Webby is going to be very similar. Lots of artifacts to uncover, lots of new ways to immerse yourself in each of the pavilions. We are stoked to give it a go. And again, that's just the start of all the new and returning experiences we'll be seeing not just next year, but coming up at the end of this year too. So stay aware, y'all. Make sure to add a little bit of flexibility into your itinerary just in case your plans need to scooch around for any sudden additions that may pop up. Now, this next point is one that still trips most guests up to this very day. Never assume a Disney World menu will always stay the same. People change, trends change, pop culture changes, your favorite band changes, and Disney World menus change too. Maybe your favorite band doesn't change. I don't know. You could be really dedicated to Queen like I am, and I get it. But every year we watch the Disney World menus add items, switch up the ingredients of items, take away items, and increase the prices of items too. Here are some changes that we've come across recently. Territory Lounge over at Disney's Wilderness Lodge, they added some brand new eats and cocktails. Just to name a few, they've now got a s'mores old fashioned with a marshmallow skewer garnish, the Territory popcorn sampler with 5 different kinds of popcorn, spicy, caramel, sea salt, truffle, and barbecue, and the loaded baked potato flatbread, which was just an all-around carby starchy delight. Skipper Canteen over at MK also dropped some new drinks on their menu recently, including the Golden Haze Margarita and that Jungle Bird cocktail. And we also saw a major change happen over at the Coca-Cola rooftop bar in Disney Springs back in September when all alcoholic beverages were removed from the menu. So it's like the old saying goes, here today, gone tomorrow. But if you don't want to be caught off guard by any Disney World menu changes, or you just want to become a Disney dining connoisseur, because of course you do, you can download the 2022 DFB Guide to Walt Disney World Dining from dfbstore.com. There you're going to find oodles of updated Disney World menu information for every single restaurant on property. And if you want to save money, make sure to type in the code YouTube before you check out. Another thing you should never do in Disney World, assume that everyone's going to love it as much as you do. Ouch, that's smart. You really don't want to push your kids to do things they're not ready for, unless you know what you're doing. Now, I know how much you want your kids to love the same parts of Disney World that you do, but as hard as it is to admit, they just might not be ready for it yet. Kids might be spooked by animatronics or not like the sudden sharp turns and drops of junior coasters. If you know your kid tends to shy away from rides and certain darker scenes from their favorite Disney films, then keep in mind that this kind of apprehension isn't just going to disappear when they get to the parks. In fact, these fears could be heightened. There's a lot going on for a little one to have to process, after all, and the overstimulation of it all could be a lot for them to handle. Remember, there are a ton of things for kids to do in Disney World that don't revolve around the rides. They can play in the circus-themed playground inside Dumbo. They can collect KidCot activity cards in each of the pavilions around the World Showcase at Epcot. Order that cool DuckTales scavenger hunt. They can walk the animal trails at Disney's Animal Kingdom and learn about lots of different wildlife along the way. They can sing along with the cast of Frozen and for the first time in forever, Frozen Sing-Along Celebration in Disney's Hollywood Studios. Or they can just have a nice quiet pool splash pad day back at the Disney World Hotel. There are lots of alternatives that don't revolve around having to force a kid to keep going on rides they don't want to ride. But if you're afraid someone else in your party is going to have to miss out on a ride to hang back with a younger member who's just not having it, don't be, because that's when the rider swap comes in, right? Before getting in line, a cast member at the front of the ride can set up your group for rider swap. That way, the person who has to stay behind with the kid while the rest of the group gets into the queue will still get a chance to ride afterwards along with another group member so they don't have to ride alone. It's like playing a game of tag. Group A waits the full amount of time in the queue while Group B stays back. Then when Group A is done, they'll tag Group B, who'll be able to immediately get on the ride without having to wait in the ginormous queue all over again. Now, even though you should never do this next Disney World thing, that doesn't mean it won't sneak up and happen to you anyways. Happens to me all the time. Please don't ever wait until the last minute to cancel something you need to cancel. It's 10 minutes until your Oga's Cantina reservation at Disney's Hollywood Studios, and you're only halfway through the Rise of the Resistance line. So now you've got to make a decision. Do you get out of line to make it to your reservation, or do you skip it entirely? Okay, this might help make your decision for you. Canceling your dining reservation is no longer an option. If you cancel a reservation before that 24-hour window leading up to your time slot, then yeah, you can cancel with no repercussion whatsoever. But once you're 24 hours out, a cancellation or a no-show is going to cost you $10 per person, meaning if you're in a group of 4, you could wind up paying $40 just to not eat somewhere, and that's a major bummer. In some cases, like Cinderella's Royal Table at Magic Kingdom and Hoop-Dee-Doo Musical Review at Disney's Fort Wilderness, they're going to require you to prepay for your meals. So a no-show means you're going to wind up having to pay for the full experience with no chance of a refund, and that's a doubly major bummer. So if you decide you'd rather ride more rides than take time out of your day to sit down for a table service meal, that's totally fine, but remember to cancel your reservation before you're 24 hours out, so you're not caught paying for something you're not going to end up doing anyway. Now, I have paid for my fair share of no-show fees and penalties, but there have been a couple of times where my kid was just having a meltdown or someone got hurt and we had to get back to the room, where I was able to talk to guest services and they were able to take that charge off of my account. So just be cool. If it's a situation where you genuinely made the mistake and you're not going to make it to your reservation and the fault was yours, go ahead and pay the fee. But if it is a situation where there were external circumstances, something happened that was out of your control, that's definitely something you could talk to guest services about if needed. No guarantees that they'll be able to take that charge off, but it is an alternative for you if you need to use it. Now, let's figure out how to diffuse a Disney World crisis before it's too late. Please don't ever escalate a tense situation in Disney World. There's no use in making an already stressful situation worse than it already is, especially when the situation is with a cast member or another park guest. If you come across an issue with your park ticket or a reservation or a glitch on the My Disney Experience app and the situation can't be immediately fixed by one of the cast members, ask them to take you to a guest services building or head there yourself. All guest services locations will be located at the front of the parks, but you might also see some pop-up guest service tents around the different lands as well. Although cast members are super helpful in so many ways, they may not always be able to magic wand your concerns away. So don't jump to the conclusion that these cast members don't want to help you. They do, but your concerns may not fall into their line of expertise. Guest service cast members do a great job of creating solutions, but the best thing you can do for them is A, have proof of your purchases and reservations saved in your email or in your camera roll, and B, have a good attitude. Because guest services will be way more willing to meet guests in the middle who don't automatically want to make them out to be the bad guy in the situation. They are there to help after all, and they're on your team, I promise. And also remember, if a cast member is asking you to do something related to riding a ride or seeing a show, they are doing it for your safety and the safety of others. They're not doing it just because they don't like you. They're doing it because it's their job. So please, again, don't escalate a tense situation. Temper can handle, then just walk away. Next on our list, never judge a book by its cover is so last century. Let's change up the saying to make it more modern. How about never judge a restaurant based on its popularity? You know all those Disney World restaurants you're getting up at the crack of dawn to book before all their reservations are snatched up? Yeah, they don't necessarily have the best food on property. In fact, some of the food at the most popular restaurants can be extremely mediocre. Popular restaurants like Be Our Guest Restaurant, Cinderella's Royal Table in Magic Kingdom, Chef Mickey's at Disney's Contemporary Resort, and Space 220 in Epcot tend to be more style than substance. I'm not saying the food is bad per se, but the reason you're going to be going to any of these locations is because of the atmosphere and not the meal. All of these are pretty decidedly mediocre. Now, let's look at some restaurants that are easier to book and have super awesome food that we dream about at night. Garden Grill at Epcot. It's a slowly rotating character dining restaurant with fresh takes on classic comfort food. Il Molino New York Trattoria at Walt Disney World Swan Hotel is a great date night location for those looking for traditional Italian eats. Grand Floridian Cafe at Disney's Grand Floridian Resort and Spa is an upscale setting with moderately priced breakfast, lunch, and dinner offerings. Always super good. And Raglan Road at Disney Springs, that's an authentic Irish setting and often has live Celtic music and river dancing taking place in the main dining room area, which you don't want to miss. Plus, an expansive menu with everything is excellent. But there's also the occasional Disney World restaurant that blankets the hard-to-get reservations and the good food criteria. And those are the restaurants, in my opinion, that you really want to jump on if you love well-themed dining experiences and great food. First of all, of course, Ohana over at Disney's Polynesian Village Resort. They've got that Hawaiian-style churrascaria type service for dinner and a character meal for breakfast. And the second is Artist Point Storybook Dining with Snow White at Disney's Wilderness Lodge, which takes place in an enchanted forest with a fairy tale themed menu and gives you the rare opportunity to meet Snow White, Dopey, Grumpy, and the Evil Queen, who of course is the best character, all in one setting. Again, advanced dining reservations open up 60 days before the start of your vacation, but if you really want to be on top of things, reservations will open around 5:45 a.m. Eastern. So if you really want a fighting chance for a seat at one of those prime dining locations, good food or bad, plan to set your alarm clock pretty early. Now, we're talking about dining, and here's another never do in Disney World dining tip. Don't give up on your dining reservations prematurely. Okay, didn't get that dining reservation you wanted at 5:45? Don't lose hope. The thing is, not every group who makes a dining reservation is going to keep their reservation, so it doesn't hurt to keep checking the Disney World website or the My Disney Experience app to see if any new reservations might become available on the off chance that they do. Also remember to check on the less popular dining times first for an easier chance of getting a reservation secured. Meaning check on dining reservations during that 2 to 4 p.m. period that feels too late for lunch but too early for dinner. Those time frames tend to book up less quickly than the peak dining times. On the day of your visit, you'll also want to check and see if any of your coveted restaurants just so happen to pop up on the mobile dine wait list on the My Disney Experience app, or if even a reservation has popped up because of those 24-hour cancellation windows, right? We've been able to snag reservations at the last minute this way, even with restaurants as popular as Be Our Guest. It's not a for sure solution, and it's way better to secure your reservations in advance if you can, but if you weren't able to get a table booked ahead of time, then this could be your last shining chance to grab a seat. And now for a point that might throw you off guard, but it's true. Don't misuse the appliances in your hotel room. Okay, some folks pride themselves on being resourceful, even if no one asked them to be. Let's say you're staying at a Walt Disney World Value Resort and your tummy starts rumbling. Unfortunately, the standard Value Resort rooms aren't going to give you a full-on kitchen to work with. They won't even give you half a kitchen. But that doesn't mean you're allowed to experiment necessarily. I won't go into details, but let's just say Disney's had some rather interesting occurrences with guests using the appliances that they do have in the room, like the coffee pot and the iron, to make food that they can't or aren't supposed to make. The rules, if you break it, you buy it, do apply when you're at Disney too, so if what you're attempting to do could break something in the hotel room, that'll be on your tab. And if you want to make sure you've got a hotel room that does have the appliances needed to whip up a nice meal without heading into the Disney scene again, try booking a family suite at one of the value resorts like Art of Animation and All-Star Music for a kitchenette setup. And at Disney's Fort Wilderness, you can rent those cabins with full kitchens. Not to mention, that particular resort has their own grocery delivery service where you can pre-order foods you'd like to stock up on during your visit. Disney will even load these groceries into your pantry before you arrive. And at each of the deluxe resort villas, you'll either have a full kitchen or a kitchenette, depending on which type of room you book. But if you know you're still going to wind up booking a hotel room without a kitchen setup, then it's best to have some prepackaged snacks and foods on hand that you don't have to worry about cooking up to eat, like Uncrustables, protein bars, and beef jerky. You can also order food from a delivery service like Grubhub and Uber Eats and pick it up from the lobby when it arrives. Basically, you've got options, so you don't have to resort to ramen in a coffee pot. And I see all of you out there who are laughing because I know you've done it. All right, we made it. I knew we would. Thank goodness you're not going to do any of the things we talked about in today's video, right? Because the team and I want to see you have the best trip ever. And making grilled cheese in your room with the iron is not the best trip ever. In fact, let's keep the positive mojo coming. How about you share some of your best Disney World memories thanks to the things you did do in the comments down below. We love to see those happily ever afters flood the pages. Thanks for listening, everyone, and thanks for watching. As always, this is AJ for Disney Food Blog, and we'll see you real soon.